Now, as Keith and Dave can tell you, there's a lot of technology involved in the production of most fishing tackle, but some people still prefer the feel of an old-fashioned split cane rod. We went down to Sharpe's Rods in London to see exactly how they're made.
Right, well, the first thing you need in making a built cane rod, traditional built cane rod, are the poles, the bamboo poles. Now, these are going to be, first job, baked in the oven to get them in the right condition, ready for all the other processes. Now, they go in there at a set temperature for a set period of time. And here's a couple that have already been baked the right length of time and now are in the right condition to go upstairs, ready for some flaming to drive out a little bit more of the moisture and to give them a little bit more colour. Once the poles come out of the oven, they're taken to Jeff. Jeff will colour flame the poles. This is to achieve the desired colour for the finished rod. Jeff's been at this job for 3 or 4 years and knows just the right amount of heat to apply to the poles in order to achieve the desired colour. The splitting then takes place. Steve applies the blade to the top of the cane, gently knocks it until the cane will start to split naturally. There is another way of doing it, which is to saw the strips, which does at least ensure uniformity, but there is some feeling that sawing may not follow the grain quite precisely as splitting does. Peter will now begin to use the linisher in order to flatten the nodes on each of the strips. The nodes are the growth rings around each of the original bamboo poles, and they have to be flattened in order that the strip will be accepted and lay flat on the bed of the mill when we get to the milling process. The milling process will cut the desired angles for the 6 pieces of cane to sit together, forming the hexagonal, and it will also achieve the required taper for the particular rod that we're building. Jeff clamps the strip to the bed of the mill, which then runs underneath the mill cutter, which cuts the exact angle necessary to form the hexagonal shape. It's an exacting process. We have had occasions when perhaps a node has not been taken down sufficiently, and as a result the strip has slipped off the mill bed, hit the cutter wheel and gone flying across the workshop like an arrow, and you've got to be pretty quick to duck under those circumstances. Once each strip has been through the mill, it's married with the other 5 strips, ensuring that none of the flats of the finished rod will have a node on an adjacent face. Otherwise, what happens is that they produce a weak spot in the rod. They're taped then together for Peter just to begin the gluing up process. The bundle's opened up so that glue can be applied to the internal surfaces. They're then handed to Steve, who'll string them loosely at first, just to hold them together. They're then inserted into the motor, which turns them at considerable speed whilst they're wrapped in string under tension. The tension is quite important. It has to be maintained regularly throughout the length of the blank in order that we don't get any twists, in order that it's not strung too loosely or too tightly. So that's quite an exacting part of the process. Whilst the string is removed and the cleaning process is carried out, John prepares the ferrules and the rod fittings ready for the finished rod. So there we have it. John's completed his work on the ferrules and the sliding collars and the butt cap. Those have been fitted. And now there was probably another 2 or 3 weeks' work involved in finishing the rod. The handle has had to be shaped to the required dimensions. The rod guides have needed to be whipped on, intermediate whipped in this case as well, and then it will receive 5 or 6 coats of varnish to obtain the required build. And then it will probably require another week or 2 weeks in order for the varnish to harden sufficiently for the rod to be in a condition where it can be used. And there we have it. That's the Sharpe's Scottie 9-foot carp stalker, a real traditional, classic styled split cane rod.
Bit of class there, bit of quality in a split cane rod, but I mean they're not cheap these days, are they? Something like 500 or 600 quid. I'm sure.
Labour intensive.
Yeah, well, as we saw there a moment ago.
Labour intensive.
But I mean, can't you buy blanks and varnish them yourself and put your own your own rings on?
I wouldn't have thought so, and I wouldn't want to anyway. If I'm going to spend that money on a rod, I'm an expert to make it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to budget up myself. I'd tape them on with insulating.
But surely, I mean, over the many years, Keith, you have actually whipped your own.
Oh, I've
whipped
rods. I've done 20 a week. I used to make rods, custom build rods. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that we will be giving away one of those rods. Yes, one of those very rods you saw made there as a prize on next week's show.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Hey, things are looking up. Good stuff.